Don't forget to hit subscribe for Suzanne's Tutoring, and visit my website for free PDFs of these notes of this tutorial video, and it's always free. There are never any ads. There's never any membership to sign up for. I don't go hounding you for money. I don't require you to give me your information. It's none of my business. So, are you confused about moles? Now, not the animal that digs underground and eats up all your lettuce and stuff in the garden, but moles, chemistry moles. I can tell you this has been the bane of my existence when I first started out in chemistry. Now I absolutely love it, because once you get the hang of it, actually, once you grasp it, it does take a lot to grasp it, because it's a weird topic, and it's not taught very well, I don't think, by any textbooks or any educators. No matter how great a teacher you have, it is very rare to come across a teacher who can actually explain this well, like, without talking over your head. So, I don't know why, it's just one of those things. But once you actually can grasp this, it is so cool, because it's really not bad, I promise. And it's like a little puzzle, and it strengthens your math skills, and proves that you're actually good at math, and it strengthens your chemistry skills. And the thing is that once you start practicing your dimensional analysis, doing this mole stuff, this is going to help you for the rest of your life, no matter what subject, just because you're going to be able to apply just the way you think about this stuff. You're going to be able to apply that skill to other things in your life, and it's really going to help you immensely. So take the extra time to make sure that you understand this, because this is also one of those things where if you don't understand this in your chemistry class, this is going to haunt you for the rest of your days, because this is going to keep coming up in every single thing you do from now on for the rest of your major, whether you're a chemistry major or a biology major or whatever, and especially if you ever work in a laboratory. So this will haunt you. This is not one of those subjects that you can just kind of muddle your way through and hope it doesn't come up on the final. You have to know this stuff. But don't worry, I'm here for you. And as always, if you have a question, if I'm not clear about something, leave a comment. So let me tell you this little fairy tale story. Once upon a time, there were 3 towns. There was a small town, there was a medium-sized town, and there was a big city. Now, there was a little village, and it was so little, that was their name, Little Village. And they would abbreviate it with an L-I, and they would just put a little apostrophe mark and go T-L, so Little Village. And this was a little farming town. There was only, a few hundred people that lived there. They grew corn. Here's your little corn plants, and I can't draw an ear of corn, but here's your plants, and there's the sun, because they need the sun to grow stuff. They're farmers. And this is literally a one-horse town. So this is a very teeny tiny town. As I said, only a few hundred people. Now there's a medium-sized town nearby, and this is a town full of sports people. Yay, sports! So we have a basketball player, and we have a soccer player, or as the rest of the world say, football, and then we have a baseball player, and then we have a lot of fans. We have a lot of sports fans. Even the people who don't play sports, they go and cheer on their favorite teams. So yay! And so this was such a town of sports fans. They were called Town O for Oh Yeah. And then there's a big city, and this big city was named Ron. This is big city. It's full of skyscrapers, and there's thousands and thousands of people live in this big city. They're all working. It's open day and night, and they all live together. And they're always, as everybody who lives in a big city always is, in a hurry. Everything is on a time clock with these people. I don't know what the deal is, but these people are always in a hurry. And so they always want to go and do things the shortest way possible. So even Big City Ron, even though that's only one syllable name, he wants to be known as RN for short, because he's in a hurry. Now, so we have these 3 towns. There's the little village, the little farming town, there's the medium-sized sports fan town, and there's Big City Ron. Now, the little village, as I said, only had, maybe a couple hundred people in it. And so their little village, when their town mayor decided to make buses for their public transportation, they only made teeny tiny buses. So teeny tiny. So each bus could only fit 7 people on it. Because really, there aren't that many people in this town, so that actually makes sense. So you don't want just one big bus, because everybody would have to just drive everywhere, so you get a lot of little buses so they could go in all the streets. So there's only 7 people could fit on each bus, on each teeny tiny bus. So there's the 7 for the little villagers. Now the medium-sized town, oh yeah, Town O for short, has a medium-sized bus. So medium-sized bus. So this medium-sized bus only fits 16 people at once. So there's a bunch of buses. It's not just one bus for the whole town. There's a bunch of buses, because they go to different streets. But just each bus is only big enough to fit 16 people at a time. And so here's your 16 for Town O. Now, the Big City Ron, RN for short, because he's in a hurry. Big City Ron, they got thousands of people living there. So all of their buses, they're all these big buses, right? And if you live in St. Louis like me, you recognize these, because these are the big St. Louis city buses, because they have that little accordion thing in the middle of them, so it can turn around, turn corners and everything. So, but there's this whole extra tail end on it to add extra people. So, well, not extra people, just to make sure that there's a lot of people on it. So on these big buses for Town Ron, each bus in Big City Ron can fit 222 people on it at one time. So here's your 222, and that's how many people can fit on one bus. And they have many buses, but each bus can only fit 222 people on it at once. Now, here's some problems. Let's think about this for a minute, and you'll see where I'm going with this after a second. There's a music festival at the state park. If one bus of people from Town O attend, how many Town O people come to the concert? Another question is, if 2 buses of people from the little village attend, how many little villagers are there at the concert? And then finally, if 10 buses of people from the big city run come to the show, how many city folks are there? So remember our dimensional analysis. As I said at the beginning of this video, the dimensional analysis is key to doing these problems. Now, if you need a refresher, just go to my YouTube tutorial, Dimensional Analysis Stoichiometry. Okay, and if you just need a quick refresher, just speed up the playback on the video to like 1.5 or 1.75 or even 2 in the settings, and then that way I sound like a chipmunk. I talk really fast. You don't have to wait for me going, the whole time. And I go really fast, but it reminds you really quickly. And I suggest you do that for most of my videos if you think that I'm going too slow. If I try to speak slow enough so that everybody from all walks of life with all different ways of processing information are able to keep up. So if it bores you, if your attention span is not good for having me talk slow, then please, by all means, speed up the settings. And here's what it looks like on YouTube. If you go to my YouTube page, here's Suzanne's Tutoring right here. And here's, if you go to my videos, and then you can use the search little tool, that magnifying glass, and here is the dimensional analysis stoichiometry for conversions and word problems. This is the one you want to go to. There's a couple other stoichiometries and a couple other dimensional analysis, and there's several videos on moles, but what I'm explaining in this video is going to cover what I cover in the other stuff. So, but you want to go and refresh on this and just speed it up. When you go and click on it, like here's the beginning of the video, here's the settings, you go to the settings right here, where this little gear looking thing is, you click on that, and up pops a couple options. One is playback speed. You can click on that and set it to like 1.5 to, so that you have me talking at 1.5 times, 2 times as fast, if you need if you need a refresher, but you don't want to sit there and sit through a 25-minute video. Okay, and now back to the questions. So there's a music festival at the state park, as I said. So if 1 bus of people from Town O attend, how many Town O people in the concert? 2 buses from Little Village attend, 10 buses from the big city attend. So let's start with the middle one. Let's start with the smallest town, the village. It's so small it's not even a town, it's a village. If 2 buses of people from the little village attend, how many little villages are there? So if we have, here's little, and we're just going to use this as an abbreviation for little villages, or villagers, and we're going to have 2 buses, is what I'm asking about, but as I said before, there's only 7 people per bus, because it's a very tiny, tiny bus. So here's a bus, okay, and 7 people can fit on it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 people fit on 1 bus in the little village. But there's 2 buses, right, is what I'm asking about. So we have to draw another bus. Here's 2 buses. So here's another one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there's 7 people on each bus, and there's 2 buses. So how much is that? Well, if you take 2 buses times 7 people each bus, you're going to get 14, right? So that's going to be 14. There's 14 little villagers at the concert. Now let's see the next one. From Town O, because they like sports, so they're like, oh yeah. And if 1 bus of people from Town O attend, how many Town O people are at the concert? Well, as I said before, Town O has medium-sized buses, and they fit 16 people on a bus. And there's only 1 bus in the question, because see this question, if 1 bus of people from Town O attend. So if there's only 1 bus of people from Town O, and there's 16 people in a bus, then that's going to be 16. That's going to be 1 times 16, right? Which is 16. And there we go, 16. Now, on to the next one. If 10 buses of people from Big City Run come to the show, 10 buses, how many city folks are going to be at the show? Now, 10 buses, and remember I said they're big, huge buses, remember? There's those big, huge ones with the accordion in the middle to, like, make sure you can fit enough people, and there's 2 sets of wheels up there and then another one back here. And there's 222 people on each bus, and there's 10 buses. So how would you calculate that? Well, you just take the 10 buses, 222 people, and multiply that together, and you get 2,220 people for 10 buses, right? So we got 2,220 people. Now, how many total people came if there were 2 buses from the little village, 1 bus from Town O, and 10 buses from Big City Run? Well, here we go. 2 buses from the little village, and 7 people per bus. And then 1 bus from Town O, 16 people per bus, and 10 buses from Big City Run. So these little numbers right here would say how many buses there are. Right? So let's go to the next page. And on the O, since there's nothing here where the little numbers should be, nothing means an invisible 1. So if there is nothing after the little initial, then that's an invisible 1, and you just go ahead and know that that's a 1. So 1. You don't really write the 1 because we all just assume, because scientists are lazy, if I haven't said this before. So if they can get away with not writing something, they will. So if everybody just agrees that if the O is there but there's no number after it, It's just an invisible 1. So, invisible 1. Now, we have 14 people from the little village because there's 7 per bus and 2 buses. There's 16 people from town Oh Yeah because there's 1 bus, 16 people in a bus, and 2,220 people from the big city run because there's 222 people fit in a bus and there's 10 buses, right? So that's going to be 2,250 people in total if at the music festival 10 buses from the big city run came, 1 bus from town O, and 2 buses from the little village came. 2,250 people. But wait, there's more. There's more problems. It's same music festival. Now, if 49 people from LI, and that's for Little Village, right, because we're just abbreviating it, Little Village. If 49 people from LI attend the show, then how many buses from the Little Village are filled? If 64 people from Town O come to the festival, how many buses from Town O show up? If only 111 people from Big City Ron attend, how many buses from Ron are needed? So let's start with this first one. Let's start with the littlest town, the village. If 49 people from the little village attend the show, then how many buses from the little village are filled? We have, here's the little village right here, right? And we're asking how many buses is the question, which normally that would be the little number down here to the right, right? So, but we don't know what that number is. That's what the question is. So we're just going to put a question mark right there. And then we know that there's going to be 7 people in each bus, right? Because the little village town, it's a small town, and they only have teeny tiny buses that only fit 7 people at a time. And that's going to equal 49 people, because that's what the question is talking about, if 49 people go to the music festival. So we're going to do backwards from what we did before. We're going to take this 49 and see, we have question mark times 7 is going to equal 49. So we're just going to go backwards. 49 divided by 7 is going to equal how many buses there are. All right, so let's do this next one. 64 people from Town O come to the festival. How many buses from Town O show up? Okay, now here's, the other one was just kind of easy, so I just kind of breezed through that, but let me actually break this down and do it correctly. So if you get in the habit of just doing this every single time, you cannot go wrong, and you won't get tripped up and like flip numbers on accident and end up getting the wrong number on a test, even though you're doing everything else right, you know, so you don't get the answer wrong. So we have this question mark, how many buses, because this is normally where the number for how many buses there are go, right? And down here's the number for how many people on each bus, and here's the total number is 64, right? So let's make a data table, just like I showed you in the dimensional analysis video. We know that 16 people fit on 1 bus, and a data table, you always put something equals something else. You always have to make an equivalency. Something equals something else. And don't forget to write what those somethings are, people in bus. And we got 16 people goes in 1 bus. Now, the question is, how many buses is it going to take to bring 64 people to the concert, right? So that's what we're asking. So this is our data table, and let's take our data table in the next slide, and we'll set up the problem and knock it out real quick. So here's our data table that we did in the last slide. 16 people in 1 bus, 64 people equals question mark buses. How many buses is that? So in dimensional analysis, we always start with the row that has the question mark in it. So here's our question mark buses. We don't know what this question mark stands for, so we go to the other side of the equal sign, which is 64 people. So write that down, 64 people. And then you just put that over 1. And then you write a multiply sign and a fraction bar. Whatever is the unit of measurement, whatever this thing is that we just wrote down, we wrote down 64 people. So what unit is that? That's in people. 64 people. So this people, we're going to take and we're going to write it on the bottom of the next fraction. People. Okay? Now we look down at our data table. Look. Here's our eyeballs. Look down at our data table, and here's another place where they say people. 16 people. So we're going to write that down. We're going to go 16 people. And whatever is on the other side of the equal sign is going to go on the top side of the fraction bar. Okay? So that pretty much does it. We have the 64 people, so we can cross that row out. And we have the 16 people equals 1 bus. We can cross that out. So we've used all of our whole data table up. So if we cancel out the units of measurement that are diagonal from each other that match, so we have people up here and people down there, that cancels out. The only unit of measurement we have left is bus. And we go and look and see what that question mark is. Is that what we're asking? How many buses? Yes, it is. How many buses? So we know we've set this up correctly. Check. We have set up the problem correctly. Okay, so now that we have this set up correctly, we have 64 people, and people is canceled out, as I did before, and we just have bus left. So 64 times 1 is 64. And then 1 times 16 is 16. And then you carry over, the only unit of measurement we have left is bus, so you carry this over bus. Now we have 64 over 16 buses of people. Now how many is that? So 64 divided by 16 is going to be 4. And that's just because I'm the one that wrote these questions, so I know it's 4. But if you couldn't figure that out in your head, it's okay. It's not that you're bad at math, it's just that I already set this problem up. But you can just punch into your calculator 64 divided by 16, and you're going to get 4. 4 what? 4 buses. So if 64 people from town Oh Yeah come to the festival, how many buses from town O show up? Well, 4, silly. Now, if 111 people from Big City Ron attend, how many buses from Ron are needed? So we know that from what I said before, each bus in Big City Ron can fit 222 people in it because they're huge buses because it's a big city and everybody's in a hurry, right? Now, we don't know how many buses we need. That's why we put a question mark here in the place where we would normally put the number of how many buses we're going to use. And then is going to equal 111 because that's what we're talking about if 111 people attend. So we are going to set up a data table like this. We know that 222 people can fit into one bus. And so but we don't have 222 people. We have 111 people. And how many buses is that? So that's our data table. So let's set up this problem and knock it out. So we start with the line that has the question mark in it, but the other side of the equal sign where it's a value we know, so 111 people over 1, multiply in a fraction bar. People is the unit up here, so we're going to put it diagonal down here. And then we're going to look at the data table for where it says people, and that's right here, 222 people. Now, what do we put on the top of the fraction bar? Well, whatever is on the other side of the equal sign goes on the top of the fraction bar. So that's one bus. So 111 times 1 is 111. 1 times 222 is 222. People is diagonal, so people and people cancel out, leaving just a bus. Now, if we put into our calculator 111 divided by 222, we're going to get 0.5, or otherwise known as 1/2. So we only need half a bus. So the answer is 0.5 or 1/2. Now, since it's chemistry, you want to go with the decimal, not with the fraction. Now, here's another question. If everyone in one bus from town O and 2 buses from the little village, they all chipped in and they rented a big party bus to go to the concert. So they're not taking their own buses. There's just the people from one bus from town O, and there's the people from 2 buses from the little village, but they all got together and rented a big party bus to go to the concert. So the question is, how many buses came to the concert? Now, we can do this whole thing where it's like, okay, well, here's the little village one, right? Here's the teeny tiny one, and they fit 7 people. And there's 2 of them, right? So we got 2 teeny tiny buses, each fitting 7 people. And then we got a medium-sized bus, Go Sports, that fits 16 people. All right, so 7 people plus 7 people is 14 people, plus 16 more people is 30 people, right? But that's not what the question's asking. The question's asking how many buses are going to come to the concert. So try to pause this and figure it out on your own. Figure it out for yourself. And then when you're ready, unpause it. Okay, you ready? Okay, here's the answer. Just 1, silly! All rented a big party bus. So there's just 1 party bus that's coming to the concert. I gotcha, I gotcha. So moles are just like the buses, okay? A mole is going to be that unit of measurement, that container that fits a certain amount of things, you know, in the town's case, a certain amount of people, but in chemistry, it's going to be a certain amount of grams of an element in its container. The container of the bus is the mole. Now let's look at the facts that we've acquired from what I've been talking about so far, okay? Each different town was a different size, right? And each different town had different size buses. So Oxygen had their size buses that could fit 16 people. Little Village had their size bus that could fit 7 people each. And the Big City Ron had their size bus that could fit 222 people each, right? So the conclusions that you can draw is One, the size of the buses depends on the size of the town. So the smaller the town, the smaller the bus. Larger the town, larger the bus. And each town is a different size, right? One's small, one's medium, one's large. So each has a different size bus, right? And here's an important one. Each town has only one constant bus size. So Little Village bus, all of their buses each seat only 7 people. Always. Always. All of Town O's buses seats 16 people each. Always. Not 17, not 15. 16 people. And from the Little Village, not 8 people, not 6 people, 7 people always. So each town has only one constant bus size. Now, as you probably guessed, Town O is oxygen. And see, here is, from the periodic table, here's the little tile or Scrabble piece. I always like to say they look like Scrabble pieces to me. And here's oxygen. So here's the O for oxygen. Here's the name, oxygen. And this is the atomic number, right? Atomic number. And that's how they're all organized, like in a row. So you have atomic number 1, atomic number 2, atomic number 3, atomic number 4, you know, and so on and so forth, yada yada, on the periodic table. They're all in a row like that for the atomic number. But what you want to pay attention to is not the atomic number for this one. It's the atomic mass. So this is atomic mass. So what's another word for mass? Weight. Like on a scale. So, and every time we're talking about mass or weight for anything in any kind of science, and physics and chemistry and biology, doesn't matter, whatever, you know, we're talking about grams. I mean, we might talk about kilograms, but that's still a form of grams. We're talking about grams, okay? So atomic mass is grams. So the 16 people on a bus, if you just turn that people into grams, that is going to be 1 mole or 1 bus of oxygen. Now, Little Village is lithium, and there's the element name and everything. So this number down here, this is the atomic mass. So 7 people on a bus, 7 grams of lithium in a mole. Okay, now the big city Ron, he wanted you to spell his name RN because he was in a hurry, right? Well, that's short for radon. And down here is the 222 people in a bus. And that's 222 grams in a mole. A mole is just like the container for that element. And each element has a different amount of grams because they have a different size bus. They're different size towns, so they have a different size bus each. And so their size bus is going to fit a specific number of people different than the other towns' buses. And so you don't have to memorize anything. You just have to know to look on the periodic table, and always study with your periodic table. Look on the periodic table for the atomic mass on each little Scrabble tile for each element. And whatever that number is, just put a grams after it. So say grams. See, this is the number 7, so say 7 grams is a mole of that number. 222 grams is a mole of radon. 7 grams is a mole of lithium. 16 grams is a mole of oxygen. Here's a good example of it. So here's oxygen. This is the element, right? And here is the number of people in a bus, or the number of grams in a mole. Grams in a mole. Whoops, that's a highlight. Grams in a mole. So that's 16 for oxygen, right? So the number of people on a bus from that town, and see this is color-coded. The town is the element. The number of people is the atomic mass. And the bus is a mole. 1 bus is 1 mole. So there are 16 grams in a mole of oxygen. There are 16 grams of oxygen in a mole of oxygen, to be specific. But, I mean, that's kind of a big duh. It's obvious, but to be specific. So how many grams are in a mole of lithium? Well, how many people can fit on a bus? 7. So how many grams are in a mole of lithium? 7 grams are in 1 mole of lithium. So we have 7 grams for how many grams are in a mole of lithium. Now, how many grams of lithium are in Li2? All right, now if you remember, when we were doing this earlier, I had it like this. So the number of people on a bus, here's the people, that's 7 people per bus, and this is the number of buses. Number of buses. Well, what's a bus? That's a mole. So this Li2 tells us there are 2 moles or 2 buses of lithium. So how many grams or how many people is that? Well, if there's 7 people for 1 bus and there's 2 buses, 7 times 2 is 14. So there's a total of 14 grams in Li2, in 2 moles of lithium. Now, how many moles of lithium are made of 49 grams of lithium? So 49 grams, remember grams and people, that's this number down here, 7 per bus, or 7 grams per mole, but we don't have 7 grams, we have 49 grams. Well, if we take 49 and 7 people per bus, that's going to give us 7 buses, right? Or 7 moles, because remember, the buses are the moles. The buses are the container that hold a certain number of people or a certain number of grams of that element. Now, how do you write this? How do you write this? We figured out that it was 7 moles, right? 7 moles of lithium. So how do you actually write that in chemistry? Well, remember, when we were doing the buses, I had the Li for lithium, and I had the 7 people underneath it, and then I had the 2 buses right there. So we don't need to put the 7 underneath there, because anybody can look at a periodic table and look that up. But what you need to communicate is the fact that you're dealing with 2 moles, or in this case 2 moles, but however many moles you're dealing with, you need to be able to communicate that to other people in writing. So in this case, we're talking about 7 moles of lithium, so we're going to write the Li abbreviation, and then right after it, we're going to put the 7 right down here, because remember, moles are the buses, and this is where we wrote how many buses there were that we were dealing with. So Li7 would be 7 moles of lithium. Now, what about this? Ooh, this is fancy. So we have Li2, so here's a little bitty tiny number right after the Li, right after the lithium. So we know that that's buses. There's 2 buses, right? But that only applies to whatever comes right in front of it. So that's just 2 buses of lithium. Remember what I said, if there's no number in front of something, then that's an invisible 1. So invisible 1, right? So there's just 1 bus of oxygen, or 1 bus of people from town O, or 1 mole of oxygen. So lithium oxide has 2 moles of lithium and 1 mole of oxygen. And that's what makes lithium oxide. Now, as I just said, that's 1 mole of lithium oxide. But wait, what? Suzanne, but you just said that there's 2 moles of lithium and 1 mole of oxygen. Well, so 2 plus 1 is 3, so that's 3 moles, right? So why are you saying that 1 mole of lithium oxide? Aha! Why indeed? Because remember when I got you in that trick question? How many big party buses go to the concert? How many buses go to the concert? If 1 bus from town O and 2 buses from Little Village, they all chip in and they rent a big party bus to all go to the concert together. How many buses go to the concert? Just 1. Ah, I wasn't just trying to fool you and make fun of you. There was a point to that. So the moles of the compounds, and a compound is just, a molecule that's made up of more than 1 type of element. So in this case, there's lithium and there's oxygen, so it's a compound, because it's not just all oxygen, not just all lithium, it's 2 different elements. The compounds are the party buses. Just like you have to rent a party if you got a couple buses from the Little Village and a bus from town O, they all chip in, they got to get a big party bus to go to the concert, right? So the party bus is the mole of a compound. So when you have something like lithium oxide, that's going to be 1 mole of lithium oxide, 1 party bus of 2 buses from lithium, 2 buses from the Little Village, and 1 bus from town O, all got together and shipped in and got a party bus. And that's 1 party bus for lithium oxide. Even though if you would break it up, it would be 3 different moles. It would be 2 moles of lithium, 1 mole of oxide. Just like if you break up the party bus, there'd be 2 buses of people from the Little Village and 1 bus of people from town O. But they all chipped in and they got a party bus. So when you put them all together like that, it's now a party bus, and it's just 1 bus. So that's 1 mole of lithium oxide. So a mole of compound is party bus. So if we have 7 people per bus from lithium, and there's 2 buses from lithium, so 7 times 2 is 14 people. Or now we're in chemistry, so let's talk science. Instead of people, we're talking grams. So this is going to be 14 grams of lithium. And then when we go to oxygen, oxygen has 16 grams a mole. because remember there's an invisible 0 or invisible 1 there. So 16 times 1 is 16, so 16 grams of oxygen. So 14 grams of lithium and 16 grams of oxygen for lithium oxide. That's a total of 30, right, isn't it? 14 plus 16 is 30. So it's going to be a total of 30 grams of either lithium or oxygen, just, a mix of it. 30 grams is a mole, 1 mole of lithium oxide. Just like 30 people is 1 party bus. 2 buses from the little village and 1 bus from town O. So 30 people total in 1 party bus. Some of them from little village, some of them town O. Well, 30 grams is in 1 party bus and 1 mole of lithium oxide of the party. How many grams would be in 2 moles of lithium oxide? Well, what did we say back here? We have 30 grams, right, is in 1 mole of lithium oxide, of Li2O, of lithium oxide. That's 30 grams. So how many grams would be in 2 moles of lithium oxide? Well, if 1 mole of lithium oxide is 30 grams, then 2 moles of lithium oxide is going to be 60 grams, right? Because 30 times 2 is 60. No big deal. No, it's not. The math in chemistry is actually not hard. It's not fancy math. You just got to get used to all the abbreviations and all the ways they talk about stuff. But the math itself is just easy peasy. 30 times 2, 60, right? Okay, so 60 grams is in 2 moles of lithium oxide. Li2O, lithium oxide. Now, how would you write that? How would you write 2 moles of lithium oxide? How do you write that? Well, if 1 mole of lithium oxide is that, because that is 2 moles of lithium, right? And that's an invisible 1, so that's 1 mole of oxygen. But altogether, it's 1 mole of lithium oxide. Well, that's when you write the big number in front of the whole thing. So you would put a 2, a big fat 2, in front of the Li2O to say that this is one thing, this is a compound, this is a whole thing, you treat it all as one deal, one thing, lithium oxide, and you put the 2 in front of it to say there's 2 of them. So 2 lithium oxides mean there's a lithium oxide and another lithium oxide. So that means 2 lithium oxides. And see, here we go, the big number is in front. So we have 2 lithium oxides. The little numbers at the bottom are how many moles or how many buses of just the people from that town. But the big number is how many party buses there are. This big fat 2, this is the party bus number. Okay, this is the bus from the town. This is the town bus. But this is the party bus. This is how many party buses there are. So, if there are 2 lithiums in Li2O, but there are 2 Li2Os, then wouldn't there be 4 lithiums? 4 moles of lithium? Because 2 times 2 is 4. Now, how many moles of oxygen are in 2 moles of lithium oxide? Well, this is just an invisible 1, right? And there's 2 party buses, and there's 1 mole in each party bus, so that's 2 moles of oxygen in 2 moles of Li2O. Really, you got this. You might have been doubting yourself listening to me because you're like, that can't be all there is. But really, it really is just as simple as that. You just got to remember your dimensional analysis, so when you do the calculations, because they get extensive, like you've got to use a calculator because there's going to be decimals and stuff, and you have to do those little data tables, so when you go to set up a problem, you're not accidentally flipping the fraction and putting the wrong thing over the other wrong thing, getting the wrong number, so you get it wrong on a test or something. But you got this. You can do this. Just hang in there, and if you have any questions, I'm with you. Leave me a comment. If you want a PDF of these notes, go to my website.